Hello, and welcome to episode 469 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, as always, joined by Evan Silva. We are approaching the midway point of the NFL season. Evan, how's it going?
It's going really well. I wanted to address an issue, though, a topic of interest to me, to everyone, to the audience. I've received recently an influx of comments asking us to capitulate for things that we've already capitulated for. And I don't know where this is. You know, the Seahawks offense, Josh Jacobs. I mean, we capitulated on these things weeks ago. We've made the proper adjustments, read the articles, listen to the shows. We've talked about these things ad nauseum. Now we're being asked to people are asking us for post-capitulation, and we'll not be doing that on this show. Okay, so get caught up, go back, listen to the old ones. We've capitulated on those topics. There will be no further capitulation. The capitulation bit can be fun, okay? This is supposed to be fun, and this is why the spreadsheet socialists, when they try to suck the fun out of our game, it's supposed to be fun. You know, all these things are intertwined. I think you can see where I'm going with this.
I saw that too. I think people who regularly listen know that, you know, we are very more than willing to own up to our mistakes. And we got a lot right and we got a lot wrong. One of the things that I got wrong for sure was Seahawks offense. And, you know, Seahawks offense, I've quickly, I think, turned on that and played a lot of Seahawks stuff in cash for a lot of money on DraftKings. So to say that I haven't capitulated is just wrong. I mean, we were dead wrong. And I think being willing to admit that you're wrong and move on is a sign of intelligence. So
it took me like a month to really, I think it was like maybe against the Saints where I was like, you know, I think that Geno's hot run is going to end here. And it didn't end there, you know? So at that point, you take the L, you move forward, you adjust. We were talking about Geno Smith in cash last week.
I played Geno Smith in cash. Yeah.
I mean, the capitulation is done. We're not doing any more capitulation.
On today's show, we are going to go team by team through each NFC squad, talking through what we saw in week 7 and what it means going forward. Before we get into it, I have to remind everyone the NBA season is underway. Our products are for sale right now on the subscribe page, DFS, props. There's really nothing like grinding NBA every single day. Huge slate of games, 7 days a week for 6 months. Our team is grinding to the point they have absolutely no cock left. I think one of the bigger edges you can generate is by really, 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 really working hard in NBA, and our guys are certainly doing that. Check out the subscribe page. Also, this podcast is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. Battle Royale is going on a weekly basis right now, as are the Fantasy Pick'em games. We do have content for both. Justin Herzig and our team, our projections team, are working on the Battle Royale rankings every week. Those go up on Wednesdays. You can find them on the site, and also on Saturdays, we drop in our projections so you can compare them to the lines on Underdog Pick'em. Use promo code ETR when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy. They will match your first deposit up to $100. Again, promo code ETR at UnderdogFantasy.com. All right, Evan. I mean, what a debut for DeAndre Hopkins as we get into it with the Arizona Cardinals here. And this was an incredible spot. Marquise Brown was out. Marshawn Lattimore was out for the Saints. This was a short week for everybody except for DeAndre Hopkins, who hadn't played all year. That said, DeAndre Hopkins played awesome. 60 out of 65 snaps, 14 targets for a 48% share. I mean, ridiculous 48% share. 10 catches, 103 yards, no touchdowns. The thing that stuck out to me was they were playing DeAndre Hopkins in the slot. And we can talk about Rondale Moore, but DeAndre Hopkins in the slot is a different beast than DeAndre Hopkins on the outside. And Rondale Moore outside is a different beast than Rondale Moore in the slot. So there's a lot to unpack here. What did you think of DeAndre Hopkins' debut last Thursday night?
Yeah, I think his slot rate was almost 50%. They were moving him around. Historically, Cliff Kingsbury, you know, he comes from this the air raid attack, and what they do is they just line up receivers and they pretty much run from the same spot the entire game. And he actually did do that with DeAndre Hopkins for the previous 2 seasons. But hey, you know, a little credit where it's due for the fake sharp. Like, he did a good job of making sure that DeAndre Hopkins would be the focal point of the offense. Actually, DeAndre Hopkins kind of started slow. I was a little worried about him for like the first quarter or so, but then they started riffing. They started getting going. You know, you saw him talking on the sidelines, DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler, and, you know, the ball started going his way in a voluminous manner. At the same time, this really hurt Rondale Moore, who, again,
8 slot snaps all game for Rondale Moore.
He's not a perimeter receiver, you know. And so he really took it. He had a big play early, and then he was just absent after that. And, you can't trust Rondale Moore when he's playing on the perimeter. Now, I do think that once they get Robbie Anderson ramped up, Rondale Moore will probably go back into playing in the slot mostly. But, man, the way that they use DeAndre Hopkins as like a motion man and all that, I think there's some concerns here for Rondale even going forward.
Agree on all those points. You can't play Rondale Moore if you know he's going to play outside. However, I agree with Evan that when they get Dortch off the field, in other words, Dortch had to play because Robbie wasn't ready and AJ Green is dust. So Dortch had to play. The only plays Dortch can play is in the slot. So Dortch had to play the slot in 3 wide, and DeAndre Hopkins was in there a ton also. When Robbie gets active and plays every snap, maybe we see Rondale Moore in the slot. Again. I'd like to see it first though, because DeAndre Hopkins was so effective there. All right, let's go to Atlanta. This is like I don't even know what to say. I'm like at a loss for words. They go down 21-0 on the first play of the second quarter, and they finish the game with 13 pass attempts. I mean, that's really hard to do. Their pass rate over expectation right now is like getting close to historically low levels. And typically when you see it with a lot of like Lamar stuff and like really rush heavy quarterback stuff. Mariota's not even running that much. They're just handing the ball off a ton. 1st and 10 for them is almost exclusively a running play. I mean, it's just hit rock bottom. And at this point, we have no idea if Kyle Pitts is good. I still think he's good, but it's irrelevant. Drake London, I think, is very, very good. It's irrelevant. When you get down 21-0, you throw 13 times in a game. I don't know what to do or say at this point. Any reactions to Atlanta's loss in Cincinnati?
They also only ran 42 plays in this game, which is just, it's nothing. Teams run double that, like on a regular basis. There'll be a few teams that run 80 plays a game, in any given week.
The league average is like 63 plays.
Right. So, the thing that's kind of maybe the most frustrating about this, and look, they've been in every game almost up until now with their style of play, is that they have been very efficient when they've thrown the football. I mean, Leone tweeted out like Marcus Mariota's averaging almost 9 yards per pass attempt. In this game, he averaged 9.5 yards per pass attempt. It's very, I think to this point, you could understand it. I think that in this particular game, it's very confusing because of the massive deficit. And it just shows that Arthur Smith's just going to keep doing this. He's going to keep playing this way.
We had a bet in props, Tyler Algier under 50.5 yards. They go down 21-0. Algier has like 15 rushing yards. Yeah. And everybody's like celebrating, like there's no way Algier's going to get there now. I'm like, guys, this is going to be a sweat. And he landed on 50 yards. We hit it by a half point. So, I mean, it's just insane.
And they have like a pretty darn good downfield passing attack, and they're throwing to guys like Demir Bird and Olamide Zaccheaus. You can't play Kyle Pitts or Drake London right now.
I know.
I mean, Arthur Smith he's got to open it up. I mean, yeah.
They play Carolina this week, a game in which I assume they'll have a very, very run-heavy attack. We'll talk about that a little bit more on Friday. Speaking of Carolina, so we saw the first game without Christian McCaffrey, and Evan, the headline news is just when we gave up on DJ Moore, we did the video, which I hope everybody saw. We were ready to take the L on DJ Moore, and then he just finally has a very, very good game from PJ Walker. PJ Walker played well enough to earn a start. They've already announced, even if Sam Darnold is healthy, PJ Walker is going to start week 8. What do you think of DJ Moore's breakout? Anything else about the Panthers? I mean, this was an incredible win. I honestly thought that I thought the Panthers were like almost dead to win this game.
Yeah, and we'll get to the Bucks because there's a lot of discussion that we need to have there. PJ Walker balled out, and now it was a small sample. It's one game. He only had 22 pass attempts, but this was by far the best performance that the Panthers have put on as a team. Deontay Foreman kind of went off on the ground. Chuba Hubbard played really well. He got banged up late.
Yeah, he hurt his ankle. He hurt his ankle, yeah.
So we'll have to – it doesn't seem like – there have not been any indications that it's significant yet, but that's a situation we'll be monitoring on the injury report. DJ Moore's a really good player.
Yeah.
And it really added up, as we discussed on Sunday morning and a little bit on Friday, that with no Carlton Davis – facing a Bucs team that tends to spike, your pass rate, although again the Panthers didn't pass a whole lot, it added up. No Robbie Anderson, no Christian McCaffrey. It added up to a potentially big volume game for DJ Moore. He got it 10 targets. I think you can play him at least with some level of confidence now.
Yeah, and his target share was massive as we expected, and DJ Moore is just a very, very good player. I unfortunately did not listen to Evan. I played Romeo Dobbs over DJ Moore on Sunday, and I paid the price. Let's go to Chicago. So, say what you want about Justin Fields. He's playing better, and he's running more / better. He's now up to tied for third among all quarterbacks in design rushes per game at 4.7. Only Jalen Hurts at 9.3. Lamar Jackson at 6.6 have more designed rushes per game. What do you think of Fields last night and anything else on the Bears?
I would say that was maybe by far the best game of his career. He was decisive as a passer. 11 designed runs. This will really spike your number of designed runs for the season. 11 designed runs. He had never had more than 5 in a specific game. Shout out to Mike Renner of PFF for that statistic. But I love the game plan. What historically the Patriots have done against mobile quarterbacks is try to use like a mush rush and circle them so that they can't run, that they can't scramble against their man coverage, and try to make them, force them to be a passer. But Luke Getsy, the Bears OC, was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to just run right into the teeth. And, we're not going to let you do that. And Justin Fields is a dynamic runner. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't great passing conditions either. It's not like he lit it up. He did average 8.5 yards per pass attempt, but he only threw for 179. But it was like a very foggy night, and it wasn't ideal passing conditions by any means. And Justin Fields had an awesome game. I love the game plan from Luke Getsy. You want to talk about big upsets. This was a massive upset. The Bears going into Foxborough to face a very hot Patriots team. Justin Fields has it within him to be a big-time fantasy quarterback. He's going to need more help. He's going to need to string together performances like this. But I thought it was a very, very promising effort.
Yeah, the problem is his next game is against Dallas in Dallas. Yeah. And that's going to be a problem for Justin Fields. But I do think that he's at least on the right track. The other thing that I saw, Khalil Herbert dude can really, really play, man. Another really good game for Khalil Herbert, and it was only 15 to 12 in carries. I know some of that was late, but still good stuff from Khalil Herbert for sure. I continue to hold Khalil Herbert on benches and season long where I can. And yeah, Evan said the New England stuff. I had them in Survivor, and I'm now out painfully. I'm on such tilt. I'll talk about that on the pool show at the end of the week. Anyways, Dallas. So Dallas plays the Lions, and this was kind of my fear, is that Dallas' defense was so good and we're going to dominate Detroit so bad that it was not going to turn into a high-volume Dak game in his first game back, and that's exactly what happened. Michael Gallup ran 53 routes on 66 dropbacks over the last 2 weeks. He's only seen a 14% target share over that span, airballed. In this game, CD was just okay, but really an easy win for Dallas, even though the final score didn't look like a blowout. What do you see out of the Cowboys?
Pretty much the same. Everything that you mentioned there. I thought it was a nice return for Dalton Schultz. 5 for 49 at the tight end position is that's like what you want at this point, unless you got one of the super elite guys. Tony Pollard continues to ball out. Ezekiel Elliott, for him to be a factor, really, he has to score a touchdown, and oftentimes 2, because he continues to have 0 passing game, or didn't even get a target in this game.
Literally 0. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think this game played out pretty predictably. I didn't think that the Lions were going to have a good offensive effort here. And I thought the Cowboys defense would dominate. The Cowboys defense is just so good that it could work against their offensive output going forward.
Agreed. And no setbacks for Dak, which is good. Went 19 of 25 in this game. Pretty good return for him. And then all the people that were saying, they should stick with Cooper Rush. Those people are freaking insane. I don't think most people think that, but anybody who thinks that is insane. Dak is clearly better. And Dalton Schultz had really good usage. Like Evan mentioned, if he's on waivers, he should be on a team right now. Zeke's pass game role has literally gone to 0. And we know his efficiency is going to be bad. Literally has to score in order to make it worth it. It's just disaster.
He also banged his knee against like a helmet.
Yeah.
And he came out. I think he went. He definitely went back in. But that's just something that it could pop up with some soreness, and we could outside chance that we get a little bit more Tony Pollard in week 8.
Yep. Speaking of the Lions was frustrating because not only did they have the bye, DeAndre Swift wasn't ready off the bye. DJ Chark wasn't ready off the bye. He's on IR now. Josh Reynolds was still banged up off the bye. Amon-Ra St. Brown makes one catch, suffers a concussion on it. We'll see on his status.
Well, they ruled that it was not a concussion.
Okay,
but because of the concussion protocol changes, he couldn't go back in
because the Tua situation. He couldn't go back in. Yep. So we'll expect to see Amon-Ra in week 8, but still not an inspiring performance out of the Lions, who are no longer our Lions. They're someone else's Lions. I'm on too much tilt to talk about it. What you see out of the latest Lions loss in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add to that. You wish that they would have been healthier coming out of the bye, and they weren't. But I never expected them to be successful offensively. I thought that Amon-Ra St. Brown that he could have a good game. Had no hope for anybody else.
Yeah.
The unfortunate situation happens with Amon-Ra, and nobody is good in that game.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is they'll get some better matchups coming up. Dolphins at home this week. I could see that being a shootout.
Yes.
Packers at home the week after that. We know the Packers' problems. Bears, Giants, Bills, Jaguars, Vikings. I'm certainly – Amon-Ra and DeAndre Swift are still players I want on my fantasy team for sure.
Yeah.
Packers. I mean, we've been talking about it since week 1. I mean, this team is just a mess and probably not that good, or almost definitely not that good. Romeo Doubs, speaking of not good, 5.6 yards per target. That's the third worst among all NFL wide receivers. And I get that he's a rookie and whatever. He had drops. Aaron Rodgers lost faith in him. He started throwing to Amani Rodgers and Sammy Watkins more than Doubs down the stretch. I mean, it's really bad. There's a chance Romeo Doubs just isn't good. Also in this game, Alan Lazard hurt his shoulder. The good news that I saw in this game, finally, Aaron Jones, 10 targets. And that's what we need to get big value out of Aaron Jones, which we got here. What did you think of the Packers' latest embarrassment?
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty well summed it up there. Alan Lazard was in a sling after the game. I would say it's probably not looking good for him for week 8. They're probably going to have to go back to playing Sammy Watkins a bunch. Dobbs has been dropping passes really all year, and he's just kind of a mistake-prone rookie right now, and Aaron Rodgers is not going to kind of put up with that. So A.J. Dillon, one of the theses behind A.J. Dillon entering the season was that the Packers were going to be really good on defense. They were going to control games with their defense, and they were going to feature arguably their two best players, not their two best non-quarterback skill position players on offense, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Their defense hasn't been very good. They're not dominating anyone. So A.J. Dillon, I mean, he's going to be really up and down. He's like a flex option each week.
Yeah, at best, it's bad. And especially a week like this at Buffalo, it's hard to see A.J. Dillon getting there. And I saw they're 10.5 or 11-point dogs. This is the first time in the Aaron Rodgers era or something like that, they've been that big of an underdog in any game. So, wheels are off for sure.
Sounds like an Aaron Jones game to me.
Aaron Jones, need it. Rams were on a bye. They'll come out of their bye and be home against San Francisco. We already talked about the running back stuff last week. Anything to add on the Rams as they come out of their bye to face the 49ers?
They have still, unsurprisingly, not found a trade partner for Cam Akers. I don't know who would want him at this point. I mean, he hasn't been effective as a runner in a really long time, been okay in the passing game. I think that they're probably going to add another RB maybe before the trade deadline. They're always, the F them picks thing. They're very willing to make trades, trade away picks for people that they think that can help them. So I would look for maybe, I don't know, Dearness Johnson in Cleveland could be a guy they could go after. Maybe Kareem Hunt.
One thing that I think is interesting there is that if they think Kieran Williams can get back, maybe they don't need to add someone. Because I agree. I don't think they love Darrell Henderson. I don't think they love Malcolm Brown or anything like that. But I think they do like Kieran Williams. And so if they get Kyron Williams, maybe that's enough for for them not to add someone. So in deep leagues, I think Kieran Williams is probably a hold right now and see what happens. But
agree with that.
Run game is kind of broken, so I was certainly not excited about it.
Yeah.
Minnesota was also on a bye. They will come out of their bye and face the Arizona Cardinals in week 8 in a potential shootout. Vikings are 5-1. I don't really have any notes on them. I think they're pretty clean, and hopefully Dalvin Cook's shoulder is better coming out of the bye here. Any thoughts on the Vikings?
No. We've just seen them be steady on offense, and I want to see a breakout game from them offensively. I think that they have it in them. They've got a pretty good offensive line. They've got a league average or better quarterback. They've got a league average or better running back. I mean, they have a lot of parts. I want to see them, pump out some games where they can put up like 34, 35. They've just consistently hovered in the 23 to 29 range.
Yep. New Orleans played that Thursday night game against Arizona, and no Jarvis Landry, no Michael Thomas again, but Chris Olave, you can just tell he's an alpha. Good. I mean, he's just an alpha. 14 more targets for Chris Olave. Now he's at 31.5% target per route run rate. I mean, that is alpha levels for Chris Olave. What did you see out of the Saints in their kind of a wild game against the Cardinals last Thursday?
And I had Juwan Johnson as my captain in showdown.
Oh, baby.
That was a fun little run out there at the end where they're just hustling and throwing TDs to Juwan Johnson. We're still in flux when it comes to, we don't know who the starting quarterback's going to be in week 8. We don't know about Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Adam Troutman. It's a wait and see situation.
One thing on the Juwan stuff, I think it mattered that Troutman was out. Like that actually mattered. Even though Troutman doesn't get a lot of routes and catch, it still mattered for Juwan Johnson that Troutman was out. So keep an eye on that, on the Juwan Johnson stuff for sure.
Definitely.
Giants. Evan, I'm not sure that you're aware. Daniel Jones is 6th in the NFL in QBR.
I saw the tweet.
He's ninth. He's ninth among all fantasy quarterbacks in points per game. He's on pace to run for 833 yards. Only Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick, Randall Cunningham, and Russ Wilson have ever run for more. He just got Wan'Dale Robinson back, and Wan'Dale Robinson is balling out. Is there going to be a capitulation here on Daniel Jones as a premier fantasy asset?
Capitulation where it's due, and it is due here. Okay. Although he hadn't really had any big fantasy performances up until this point. But hey, now that he has had one, you got to take your victory lap, and I will bend the knee and admit that I was wrong. I didn't think that I just thought that he was going to be, pretty, like a 2 quarterback league starter, right? But in this particular game, I mean, I don't know. He's probably a top 5. I haven't looked, but he was probably a top 5 quarterback on the week.
Oh yeah,
he's a really good runner. He's a tough runner too. And he's hard to bring down. I mean,
he had over 100 rushing yards. I think all this
6'3", 220.
And honestly, the report on him coming out of Duke was not about his athleticism or his running ability at all. It was all about he can make pro level throws. He knows the playbook, whatever. This has been like a bonus. And credit to Dable, and that was kind of the thesis behind the play. Dable understands how valuable QB rushing is. And I think he's encouraging Daniel Jones to run with the football more and more. And they've done it with no wide receivers either. I mean, like I said, Wan'Dale was back, and that was really encouraging. Wan'Dale ran a route on 78% of the dropbacks in week 7 after being at 34% in week 6. He catches 6 balls for 50 yards. I think maybe all of that or most of it was in the first half. It looked like he got hit in the nuts or something like that in the first half, really hard, and he stayed in the game, but he was ineffective after that. So we'll see on Wan'Dale. But I mean, hopefully you guys have Wan'Dale because it's really, really exciting. I did notice, Evan, a concern. I don't know if you saw this. Evan Neal is going to be out 3 to 4 weeks with a knee injury, and Daniel Bellinger, it's Daniel Bellinger. It's not a big deal. He's going to be out for the year, most likely with an eye issue. So that's not great. But how bad do you think this Evan Neal stuff is? Anything else on the Giants?
Well, they have their bye coming up, right?
Not this week, but I think soon.
Okay. So that can help with that. Yeah, Evan Neal's been a stud as a run blocker. That stinks. They're going to have to try to figure something out. I think Tanner Hudson might be the next guy up at tight end.
Team preseason.
Him or Chris Myarick. Yeah, I mean, we've seen Tanner Hudson looks like freaking Travis Kelce in the preseason. One more thing I wanted to say about Daniel Jones. Because defenses do not respect the Giants receiver core, they're just we're going to play man coverage against them. like the entire game, like come try to beat us, and so when defenses play man coverage, they turn their backs to the offense, and that can give quarterbacks the opportunity to scramble. And they do design runs. The Giants do design runs too, but that gives him more scrambling opportunities. The fact that his receivers suck actually kind of works to his benefit sometimes as a runner. Just something. And to me, like Wan'Dale Robinson right now is a fantasy starter in full PPR, like an every week wide receiver 3.
Yep. Let's go to the Eagles. Eagles were on a bye. They're 6-0 now. Their next 4 games are against the Steelers, the Texans, the Commanders, and the Colts. Obviously, Commanders are down to Taylor Heineke. Colts are playing Sam Ellinger, which we'll get to. The next episode, Davis Mills has been a disaster. Kenny Pickett has not been great. I mean, their schedule is completely ridiculous. Thorman had a tweet that hit home for me. He was like, I don't often hold defenses through their bye weeks and season long, but when I do, it's the Eagles against this schedule. And I did that too. I held the Eagles in a couple season long spots through their bye week just to have them for the rest of the year. And this quarterback schedule, hard to see them not being very, very efficient, both offensively and defensively the rest of the way. Any thoughts on the Eagles as they come out of their bye?
Yeah, it's just nice and knock on wood. But they've been a team that has really struggled with injuries over the years, over the last like half decade, really, since their Super Bowl. And hopefully they can continue to stay healthy. They have stayed healthy to this point, and we've seen the results of that. I mean, they've been one of the most dominant teams. They just taking care of business pretty much every week.
Yep, and I haven't even looked at the markets, but I assume that Eagles versus Bills is like the overwhelming favorite to be the Super Bowl matchup this year. 49ers. Christian McCaffrey was limited in his debut. He only played on 22 out of 68 snaps, but on those 22 snaps that Christian McCaffrey played, he got 10 touches, 8 carries for 38 yards, 2 catches for 24 yards on 2 targets. He did line up in the slot 4 times, wide 3 times. Now that he has a week to get the playbook under his belt, I would expect a very full workload for Christian McCaffrey going forward. And, all these people asking, oh, is it better for him to be on Carolina or San Francisco? I mean, come on. What are we talking about here? He's going to have an opportunity to score so many more touchdowns, be so much more efficient as part of the 49ers than he would have with the Panthers. So we already had him as our number 2 player rest of season. He'll probably stay there. Going forward, we will release our new rest of season top 150 on Wednesday. Evan, what'd you think of CMC's 49ers debut? Anything else on the 49ers?
I thought he looked great, but Jeff Wilson also looked really freaking good.
Jeff Wilson can play, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the workload concerns, I think that they are legit, but there was a floor, like a basement scenario for Christian McCaffrey in Carolina that you didn't want any part of.
Right.
So that I think that his floor is a lot higher in this situation. I don't think he's going to get 30 touches a game. With that said, Deebo Samuel pulled his hamstring in this game, and I think that could work to Christian McCaffrey's benefit as a sort of in terms of manufactured touches. George Kittle has really started to come on recently. He's just kind of up and down, and you just got to kind of roll with the punches with George Kittle. But when he's firing, he's an absolute beast. Yep.
Yeah. Love Kittle. I mean, just such a good player. It's frustrating when he doesn't get the targets, but his efficiency on the targets is so good. Seattle. So this DK Metcalf injury is going to have a lot of ripple effects here. And if you want to start poking holes in Geno, I mean, Tyler Lockett, I think, has battled this hamstring issue and not played particularly well the last couple weeks. Now they lose DK Metcalf. He hurt the patella tendon in his knee. Doesn't need surgery. It's unclear how long he'll miss, but I got to think he'll be out at least a week here with this patella injury. Marquise Goodwin filled in 22 routes, and Marquise Goodwin went off. It was D. Eskridge after that. Derek Young barely played, but there's a whole different scenario going on in Seattle when you're throwing to a banged up Tyler Lockett and Marquise Goodwin instead of alpha DK Metcalf and alpha Tyler Lockett. What do you think about that? And also we have to talk about Kenneth Walker, aka Gale Sayers,
aka Bronco Nagurski / Barry Sanders, John Riggins. I mean, he's awesome. He's awesome. The offensive line has vastly exceeded expectations. We've had to change our outlook, really like and almost like in a 180 manner with regard to Seattle. We did that some time ago. I think that DK Metcalf probably misses at least one game. I guess it's going to be Marquise Goodwin. He's like an old journeyman at this point, who a couple of years ago was likelier to be in the Olympics as a long jumper than to be staying in the NFL. But Geno's balling. I mean, Geno's like elevating his teammates at this point. So, I mean, hey, Marquise Goodwin, he's got some big playability.
Yep, for sure. Another really impressive game for Kenneth Walker. Didn't see it in the past game, but we'll see. Also, I'll keep an eye on Travis Homer. I saw some rumblings about Travis Homer maybe getting back soon, but we know what the deal is on pass downs. It's going to be clear pass downs. It's going to be DJ Dallas or Travis Homer. Bucks had to be the worst loss of the season. I mean, had to be the most embarrassing loss of the entire NFL season. Bucks lose to PJ Walker and a Panthers team which is actively trying to tank. Everybody saw the Mike Evans play. I mean, that was absolutely one of the worst drops you can possibly have. And maybe the game goes differently if Mike Evans catches that. But still, Tom Brady career TD rate 5.5%. Really strong. This year, 2.7%. I mean, it is a mess right now. Tom Brady, I mean, he's getting divorced. He's got this kid situation. He's freaking 45 years old. I mean, does he really want to go through a meh season? We're hearing a lot of bad stuff out of Tampa right now. Can they turn around? What do you think of this loss to the Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it last week. Like, when they were playing the Steelers, like Big Ben Roethlisberger on his podcast, like came away being that's not Tom's not having fun out there. That's not the usual Tom that I expect. And you understand why. He also looks really skinny, doesn't he? Tom Brady?
Yes.
Yeah, he looks really skinny, like maybe unhealthy skinny. But I'm not, any kind of like a health analyst.
His face just looks like
like caved in, dude.
Yeah, that could be from plastic surgery, but yeah.
Okay, we're going down that rabbit hole now, right? But I'm a little worried about Fournette right now. He's been one of the least efficient runners in the NFL. And Rachaad White, I think, is like maybe starting to breathe down his neck. I don't know. It wouldn't be surprising to me if we see Rachaad White like really start to eat into Lenny's work.
Yep. I totally agree. And the Bulls mentioned something like that. Like, we have to see if the old guys can play still, and we have to see what the young guys have. And like, to me, that's like right up the alley of Leonard Fournette, who, like Evan said, has not been particularly efficient at all this season. And Rachaad White's been very good. And they used a second-round pick on Rachaad White. I mean, agreed completely. Hopefully, Rachaad White's already on your team. If he's not, I would try to get him. He could have a really big second half.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised. They're playing on Thursday night this week, right?
They're playing the Ravens on Thursday night, yes.
Yeah, they're playing the Ravens. Well, it should be an awesome game. Before the season, we would have thought it would be an awesome game. But it's notable that Russell Gage needed an MRI on his hamstring.
Yep.
After this past week. I don't know if Leonard Fournette is starting to break down a little bit. I mean, he is and now he's on a short week, and Rachaad White is the young player with the fresh legs. Cameron Brate did not play in the previous game due to a neck injury / concussion. We'll have to see if he gets good. Mike Evans came out of this game with an ankle injury. He did not practice he was, I don't think they actually held a practice, but he was listed as DNP because they have to issue that report on Monday. Just a lot of moving parts here heading into this Week 8 game. Yeah,
and I'd reiterate that Cade Otton with Cam Brate out is an option for people. 37 routes on 51 Tom Brady dropbacks, and Cade Otton has been fine productively when Cam Brate has been out. We'll see on Julio also. Still watching to see if Julio can make it back. Washington football team, last one we're going to do here today. So, we saw the Commanders coaches say they want to get Gibson a little bit more. In this game, it was Brian Robinson, 35 snaps and 8 routes. Gibson, 29 snaps and 12 routes. J.D. McKissick, 12 snaps and 10 routes. Just kind of is what it is on a 3-man backfield on a bad team right now. I thought the most interesting thing was what we talked about last week. And I know we talked about this a ton Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. Terry McLaurin in his first game with Taylor Heineke, 24% target share. Remember, he only had a 16% target share from Carson Wentz previously. And last year, when Heineke was the starter the whole season, McLaurin was up around 25%. So, this stuff matters. Clearly, Heineke likes throwing to McLaurin, and deservedly so. McLaurin is a baller. So I'm actually kind of excited about McLaurin the rest of the way. What'd you see out of the Commanders' upset of the Packers?
Yeah, and Jahan Dotson did not play in this game, but who knows when he's going to be back. He had a setback with his hamstring. Those things can linger, especially for wide receivers. That rapport is just locked in between Taylor Heineke and Terry McLaurin. Taylor Heineke played horrible. Like, come out the gate, I think he was like 1 for 7 with an interception. Everybody was gunning on him on Twitter, and he's a battler. Like, he's the kind of guy, like, he has the ability to, like, forget about the previous play. And I thought he played pretty well after just an atrocious start. They wound up beating the Packers.
I thought after that start that we would be seeing Sam Howell soon, second half or this week, but he played well enough, Heineke, to get a little bit of a leash, I think, by playing well in the second half. So, but still, if you're in a 2 QB league and you have room on your bench, Sam Howell probably will make starts this year, I would say. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That is going to do it for this NFC team by team podcast. We'll be back later tonight with the AFC team by team podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, we do have a goal of 30,000 subscribers before the end of football season over on YouTube. Would appreciate it if you guys can go over there and hit that subscribe button on the YouTube streets. For Evan, for producer Luke, I'm Adam. Good luck, everybody.